Hi, welcome to the We're Talking About Stuff podcast. I'm Michael,
And I'm Leila.
and we're talking about stuff
Yes.
today.
Self-employment.
That's our stuff for today. Um, this is a great topic. I
Hmm.
love talking about this.
Yeah. And you have been self-employed for much longer than I have. So, did you ever work a nine? I know you worked like you told me in one of the episodes what you did initially.
I don't
Did you
even.
work at like a pizza place or
I work
what
like
was your first job?
my first job was at a movie theater.
Movie theater. That
Yeah, I
was
worked
it.
in a.
Okay.
That might be a good topic for us. First jobs.
Yeah. Oh, I worked
Yeah,
quite a few jobs in my teen years. So,
yeah. But then from there, I wound up doing mostly restaurant stuff, like
okay.
waiting table.
Okay. So you never worked in like corporate, like a 9 to 5.
No, never.
Okay.
Yeah, and what about, well, I know some of what you did, but our listener slash viewers probably don't.
Yeah. So I had those odd jobs in like high school and college. And then out of college, I had a degree in biology. So I started working at the CDC in 2018. And I was actually like a fellow. So the CDC is weird about that, like anything with the government. So I wasn't like an actual employee of CDC, but I did work at the location in Atlanta. I did that for 4 years, then switched to Salesforce consulting, and then quit my job after 2 years.
Yeah.
So became self-employed,
Yeah.
which
I
is
always forget
exciting.
about your like I was think you're like the was it microbiology that you did?
Hmm. Hmm.
I think it's my own sort of like feeling not smart kind of thing that I'm like, what's that thing you said you used to do back then?
Hon
Microbiology?
Honestly, I thought science was really cool, and I still do. And I worked on bacteriophage specifically, which is a virus that infects bacteria. It's basically like a natural antibiotic, which is amazing. And that's super cool. But I always felt dumb around everybody that I was working with. Like I have a hard time retaining information, especially around, like I can retain information around things I'm passionate about, like finances, but with science, like sure, the information's pretty cool, like how our body works and how cells work, blah, blah, blah. But I would forget it after learning it, like instantly. Anything I learned in college, no clue. So I always felt really dumb around my peers because they were very passionate about it and just seemed to know things off the top of their head. So yeah, people always would think like, oh wow, microbiologist. And I'm like, I definitely in that job I felt more like a imposter, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I never would have known because I feel dumb.
Yeah.
So I would never ask any questions about microbiology except like, wow, that sounds
Yeah.
smart. And then done.
No,
Smart.
I really like I know some stuff, of course, but it's not compared to the people I worked with. It's like I was a joke. That's how I felt anyway. I did good work and it was cool, but yeah. So that was just something I knew I didn't want to do long term. That's why.
Yeah.
And then COVID came around. That's why I left because I was a microbiologist, but then COVID came around and we started doing COVID research, and I didn't like it. It was like molecular biology, which I don't like. And then there were some beyond that. I was supposed to get the vaccine, the COVID vaccine, which I never got.
Yeah.
They were like forcing it. I'm not against vaccines, but that one was just too, I didn't feel comfortable doing that. So I had to get tested twice a week on campus and like submit it to my manager. I'm like, I'm done with this. So I had started looking for a different job.
Yeah.
It was super sketchy at the time, like working at the CDC while COVID was going around, to me anyway. So,
Well, and you have this is our topic, but I'm now curious. Like you have a lot of
mhm.
health issues.
Yeah.
That I mean, was that part of why you didn't want to get the vaccine?
Well, the thing is, people were like, "Oh, immunocompromised." Like my GI doctor, I remember saying, like, I would recommend it, but I'm not gonna, you're not forced to do that. But so yeah, to me, I was probably somebody who should get it, but I didn't feel like that's crazy. To something just came out to me that was crazy. So I'm still glad I did not get that. So I wasn't concerned. I got COVID at in like 2021, I
Mhm.
think, late 2021. Super rough to go through, but like I'm young and I'm okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, to me wasn't worth it. And I'm still glad I didn't get it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a completely different topic, I
Yeah.
suppose.
I love that. I'm like, this could be interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I'm
I
not
feel like,
anti-vax, just
yeah.
FYI. I know some people are highly opinionated on that. Like I have several vaccines, but that one was like, uh-uh.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have it. I
Yeah.
got the vaccine when it
Uh-huh.
came out, and I've gotten the boosters. I've done it
Really?
every year.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I know someone who had an injury, like, and her life is really screwed. Like,
Really?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she was a student. She didn't have any money. She doesn't have any family to like help her out.
Mm-hmm.
And she's really going, she's having major health issues. And it's like documented that it's a result of the vaccine.
Yeah, I've seen that come up a lot. So,
Yeah. I always thought it was, and I feel like it probably is overstated, but
mm-hmm.
knowing someone who's going through it, I'm like, oh, like,
Mm-hmm.
what happens now? Like, it's weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that's not
Anyways.
our topic.
Yeah. We're like 5 minutes on this. So when did you become self-employed then?
I mean, I love that this was kind of like one of our sort of questions slash, topic starters, whatever, because I never decided to become self-employed. I was a waiter forever. And then I finally went back to music school in my 20s
Mm-hmm.
and sort of stumbled into a job teaching music at a Montessori school in Houston. And then one of the principal or one of the teachers said, "Well, you're going to teach piano lessons, right?" I was like, yeah, yeah, definitely." I started like I had no idea what I was doing with any of this stuff. I knew music,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it was a pretty big learning curve,
Mm-hmm.
but I never decided. I was like, oh, this is definitely better than being a waiter. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let me do this now. But it always felt like kind of this side job until I figured out what my real job was going to be at some point.
Yeah.
Um, and little did I know that it was my real job, and it was a really cool opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
like be able to run my own business.
Yeah. And when did you learn piano yourself? Like as a child, was that something you did?
Yeah, I started really playing the piano when I was like 13. I was 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
My mom one year got a piano for us for Christmas. I really liked music. I'd been in like choir at school, and yeah, so we got a piano, and I sort of taught myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which is really like when I think back, I'm like, oh yeah, there's no YouTube. I just had like some lesson books my mom bought, and I was like, okay, let me try to figure this out.
That's
And
so
then
cool.
yeah, and then I got a teacher. This is maybe another topic who I did not get along with.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of us were communicating to each other very well. Now that I look back, because I had like by teaching myself, I taught myself a lot of bad habits, and she was
I
trying to
see.
sort of take me back to easier music.
Mm-hmm.
But I was an adolescent and like, ugh, I'm too embarrassed to practice these dumb baby songs she's given me. So she thought I wasn't practicing. My mom was like, he's playing the piano all the time. What are you talking about? Because I
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to play what I wanted to play, like songs from the radio. Anyway, so yeah, that's. I feel like I'm going too many details about that background, but
No, that's okay. And
yeah,
were you teaching when you became a piano teacher? Was that in Texas?
yeah, I was in
Okay.
Houston still at the time.
What year was that? Do you know?
Probably like 99 or
Oh, wow.
2000. Yeah,
Okay. So you've been doing this for like 25 years,
yeah.
half your life, basically. That's crazy.
Wow, that's really true. I'd like hearing
And
those numbers makes me both like, wow, I've really done that a long time. Like, oh God,
yeah,
that means I'm really old. If
that
I've
is
been
a
doing
long
music that
time.
long, yeah.
Did you set up things like, do you have an LLC?
No.
No. Okay. And see, that's I feel like we're gonna hop around a lot in this episode
Yeah.
because it kind of just how the conversation flows. But so many people that I talk to, a lot of my clients are interested in starting businesses too. And I'm like, oh, sure, I'll help with that. But they're like, oh, I need to start an LLC, or so many people will start with that. And I'm like, you don't need an LLC. I didn't have one until 2024.
Yeah.
And we're filming this 1 year later as of when I started the LLC. So for years, I still had a business on the side, but I was making money from it. I was able to write off everything for for tax purposes, and I did not have an LLC. So I think that's a huge thing that people get caught up on. Like you don't need that unless it's like something big, like you're servicing houses and you could, be sued for something. Like that's different. But yeah, for most people, you don't need all the confusing stuff to start. So just wanted to call that out. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
And even we've talked about this already. My accountant, for the longest time, my previous accountant, Phyllis, who I will miss dearly, she's retiring this year.
Yeah.
She always told me like, no, 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 don't do S corp. S corp, is that what I would do, or a C corp? S corp.
S corp. Hmm.
It's the S stand for solo. Is that right? I'm trying to find a way to remember.
Probably. I am not good with all these things. It's
In
so
my
confusing.
mind, I'll think of it as solo, just so I'll remember which one was the thing I would have done. Anyway,
Yeah.
because my finances were such a mess for so long, I always assumed she was just telling me not to do that because she was like, bro, figure like this out first before
Yeah.
make it more complicated. But my new accountant advised not to even do that because some complicated things I don't quite understand yet. But any tax benefits I would have gotten would have been canceled out by how New York State treats taxing S corps.
Hmm.
I said that if someone knows taxes, they probably are right now cringing that I said that in a really weird way.
Yeah. I
But
don't know
yeah,
taxes, so I won't judge.
yeah. But so I guess I just say that to check with a professional before you
Hmm.
decide like I'm starting a business. Let me do my first step of an LLC. It might be that that isn't what you need.
Hmm. Yeah. And I know that because I am now an S corp, and I'm going to say S corporation because a lot of people think I say S corp. I say this a lot on my YouTube channel. I am not an
Oh,
S corp, S corporation.
oh, an
And
escort.
yeah, yeah.
That is an
It's
entirely
come up
different
multiple
thing.
S So somebody said like, "Oh, just say S corporation then." So it's like that's true. Yeah, so I started that in 2024 as well. That's why I started the LLC because you need an LLC to file that way. And I probably did not need to do that based on what I make. Like from my understanding, if you make over like 60K in the year, which I made over 50K, um, then it's probably good. It would benefit you more that way. But I think there was something that Trump put into place when he was a president, and the last year to take advantage of that is 2024, like some tax reduction. I don't know.
Got
So
it.
again, somebody who knows taxes is probably cringing right now too. But yeah, from my understanding, I'll benefit even more because of that. And yeah, I hope it works out that I do save taxes for 2024, but I have no clue. Everything is just, I think that's the big thing with self-employment is like you just figure it out and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should invite people who know about taxes to comment below and
Yes.
tell us what we're missing, if anything.
Hmm.
Maybe they'll tell us, "Oh no, you got it exactly right. You guys are so smart."
Right, right.
Yeah, like that might not happen, but it could.
Yeah. I mean I do go to a CPA and you do too. So like anything, and that gives me a lot of peace of mind because if anything messes up, like that's on him. He'll be there if something were to be audited.
Yeah.
So for now it's been good, and I'll file my taxes in a couple of months and see how that goes. But yeah, if you want to be self-employed, you do not have to get hung up on those things because I think people use that as like a form of procrastination and distraction,
Oh
instead of
yeah.
just taking action, like get your
Yeah.
first client, get your first video up, whatever it is that you're trying to do.
One thing that I think I wish I had done many, many years ago, and I just did the first time a couple of years ago, was separate my business and personal finances. That was one of the biggest low effort major changes to my financial life, like the way I see all of this stuff. Because everything used to just get dumped in my personal account, and I just paid everything out of that. And I just had to sort of like figure it out at the end of the year like what my deductions were, how much I paid on what, and also like the mental shift of like the business money not being my money. So like when
Hmm.
I pay my taxes out of that, it's just like, oh yeah, this is just it's not mine. This goes,
Hmm.
the my money is the money that's in my personal account. Something
Hmm.
about that separation has made a huge difference for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't separate mine either until 2024. I did keep track of things though, like any money from the business was I tracked how much it was on a spreadsheet. And then of course you get like separate because up until this year, I was always working a full-time job in addition to the business stuff. So I would get like my tax forms from my full-time job, but also from every other income stream. So they would break down on the 1099 like how much I
Yeah.
was earning, and then I just kept track of expenses. But I think that's a good tip. Separate it from the
Yeah.
beginning. It's probably going to be easier. And it's usually like you use Novo as well,
Yeah.
right? For checking,
Mhm.
business checking, Novo. We can link that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Novo's great, and they have like tons of perks too for like freebie. You introduced me to the free 5K, not free 5K, but the Stripe. They didn't take fees for up to 5K, which was pretty significant.
Yeah.
So,
That's really huge.
mhm.
Yeah. So you ultimately did do that?
Yep, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I love it.
I had it for a few months that I didn't have to pay fees for Stripe, so that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nova's great.
Yeah, I like them.
The other thing that I was going to say with self-employment is taxes, like paying your taxes, because that's where you got caught up.
So bad.
Um, if you're making money on the side, whether it be self-employment or even if you're 1099, you do need to pay quarterly estimated taxes. Um, and a lot of people also are like, oh, I'll just pay it come tax time, but you will have a fee. So yeah, you do want to pay it quarterly.
Yeah.
And the quarters are a little weird. So it's like April and then June, then September, then January. So
Yeah.
yeah,
My bonus tip for that is you don't have to wait and pay it quarterly. You could pay it you could pay it any day you want,
yeah.
which is what I've been doing just
Mhm.
because I'm still getting the habit of treating that money like not my money.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I try to get it out of my hands as quick as possible and do it
Hmm.
monthly instead of quarterly.
So prior to your like the large IRS debt that you had more recently,
Hmm.
were you ever paying taxes before that? I think you've told me this, but I don't remember.
No, I never
No.
did it right.
So you've just always had IRS debt every year? Is that how it's
Yeah.
been?
Um, and I'm not in any way, just in case, advocating that anyone do it this way because it's a really bad, like it's very incredibly difficult to get out from under.
Yeah.
I like for it's been a problem like for this entire time, the entire time I've been self-employed. I just didn't know what to do when I first started, like 25 years ago. I got it was time to file my taxes, and I was like, I didn't keep track of any of this.
Mm.
I just won't do anything. And I don't think I really planned. That's the thing. I made a video about this, about my tax issues. And I never really said, like, oh, I'm just not going to file it. I was always planning to take care of it. Like, do you know, like planning? Like, I didn't have a plan to take care of it, but I was going to. I wasn't like trying to avoid it.
Yeah.
I did. Like, I didn't do it. But in my mind, I wasn't like setting out to avoid it, but I was avoiding. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I
Hmm.
think a lot of times people want like a logical explanation from like, how did you get in this problem? It's like, there's no logical reason for this.
Hmm.
Didn't do it. And I was,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, and then a friend's dad helped me out and filed several years taxes for me. And then, it was just this cycle of but because I was always behind, I used that as a reason slash excuse not to pay my current taxes because like, but I'm making all these other payments. So just somewhere in my mind, I was like, this is just how I'm going to do it now. I'll just
Hmm.
always be paying back tax payments and not worry about the current thing because they just happily like roll it into my debt.
Yeah.
But it was Phyllis a few years ago that was like, hey, you're making more money every year, which is making your tax debt bigger every year. And this is getting really bad. Like this number is really high. And it was, I guess, like 60, $70,000 by then.
Hmm.
And I feel like this is the worst explanation. But I was for the longest time I was like, I'd owe 10,000, $20,000 at the end of the year. And to me, I was like, well, okay, I can't pay that. I can't pay this other amount either. So it all was just big numbers that I couldn't do
Hmm.
anything about in my mind.
Yeah.
So it just got worse and worse. And then I started working with you and I was trying to, dig out from under all of it and finally realized like, oh, this is like a losing battle at this point because of
Hmm.
like penalties, interest. Now that I'm looking at these numbers and really acknowledging how big they are, it's just too much.
Yeah.
Um, so don't do that.
Yeah.
If you're starting your own business, it's so
Yeah.
much easier. I mean, it to the whole separating business and personal and just paying out of that a certain percentage every month,
Hmm.
which I'm not perfect at, um, is so much easier to like get ahead of it.
Yeah.
Of
And
like,
you got to do federal and state.
yeah,
Yeah. So, well, depending on, I know some states are don't have income tax, but
yeah,
yeah, and New York is so high that yeah, New
yeah,
York and California. So
yeah,
yeah, there's a learning curve to all of it, but it's not that complicated once you get it down. So,
yeah. And now it's much easier to learn. Like,
hmm.
and not that it's easy, but back in my day, 25 years ago, there was no YouTube to like,
Right.
how are other people doing this? There was no social media to do that either. It was just,
Yep.
and I just imagine like, well, I'm just doing this sort of half-assed thing until I figure out what I'm going to do with my life. Um, so I just treated it all like, I don't know what.
Yeah. Makes sense. That
Yeah.
would be hard to learn. It's a hard thing even with the internet to understand taxes. Like I just don't mess with taxes. Honestly, the IRS kind of scares me. So I've always just been like, no, let the CPA do it. There was also one time I tried doing my taxes on my own and it got rejected because somebody already tried, like they used my social security number to file. I don't, it was like my identity was stolen. So ever since then, I have to have like the code. There's like a code that I get every year to for
Yeah.
them to type in. Yeah, it's just I don't know why that happened, but so after that, I was like, okay, I'm going to a CPA forever, and that's
Yeah.
what I've done. I was like probably 19 at the time or 20. Um, yeah, that was scary. So I'm like scared of tax stuff, and I don't like paying. Like I try to reduce my taxes as much as possible,
Yeah.
by investing in the 401k or that's why I did switch to the S corp, and then any business write-offs, which that's pretty cool that we can do that,
Yeah.
yeah, if I can lower my tax burden, I'll definitely do that because it's annoying. We have to pay taxes on way too much, I think. So,
Yeah. It's a lot of
yeah.
money. When
Hmm.
you're paying it and it's not just magically coming out of a paycheck,
Hmm.
it feels a lot different. It hits
Hmm.
different.
Even seeing it taken from a paycheck though is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Like it's a big chunk. So
Yeah.
it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
But is what
Yeah.
it is. I know for myself, because you were talking about like you didn't really choose self-employment. I definitely did. That was always a goal of mine. I hated working for other people. This started in like, I mean, even when I had my first jobs, my first job was Little Caesars, so pizza place. And I just hated that. Like the people above me were like annoying. And yeah, ever since I can remember, I did not like working under other people. And then in college, it got worse. Like that was heightened even more because I was working under like PhD students. And um, I made a LinkedIn post about this because there was one time it was like something stupid happened, and the guy who I was working under, we were in the hallway and I couldn't finish something that he asked me to do. And he was like, "That's piss poor planning on your part, Leila." And he said this in front of somebody else. And I'll never forget that moment because I almost dropped out of grad school that day because I cried. I was like so upset. I thought it was embarrassing. Like I felt belittled. And yeah, that pissed me off so much. And it just escalated from there. Like even working at the CDC was pretty chill, honestly.
That's
That was, Yeah, it was like the lowest stress job you could ever have. It was so chill. And my boss was pretty cool. So like he was older, didn't really like, he was so nice. So CDC wasn't bad. As a consultant, I just found like, so I was in the tech industry, which honestly, I would say working a 9 to 5, like the ideal situation is to work in some sort of tech or something where you're remote. Like to me, that's a dream. Well, it depends on your personality, but I think working remote and just like having a cute little computer job is ideal. I did have quite a few meetings, which I didn't like, but I think if I were to be like a data analyst or something where I could just be in spreadsheets and like watch YouTube videos while I'm working all day type of thing, I probably would have stayed in a 9 to 5 job
Yeah.
longer. I think that's ideal. And I've always wished I could be that person who could just work a job. Like being this way is kind of frustrating, I suppose, especially while I had that job. Like I so badly wanted to be self-employed. But yeah, kind of going off topic, but with the tech industry and like working in corporate, the jargon and just the whole you're like drinking the Kool-Aid, just such
Yeah.
bullshit all the time. Like the words they use, the way that we talk to each other. It's just so interesting how people are in that world. So I don't miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds terrible.
It is pretty terrible. I mean, to each their own, Some
Yeah.
people really thrive off of that, like being managers and consultants and talking with that corporate lingo, like, oh, we'll circle back. Oh, well, the pick the low-hanging fruit, all of that.
Yeah.
I can't even think of this stuff anymore. But
Like words like I think of maybe actionable. Was that one of them? Or is that?
yeah, yeah. Or just like silly little abbreviations. I mean, if
Yeah.
you just look up like corporate jargon, there's a whole bunch. And to me it was just funny. Like it was all just a big joke. And those are jobs that are not life-saving. Like you're not doing surgery, but the people who like your clients and stuff act like it's the end of the world if something isn't working or it's like, oh, we
Yeah.
need this immediately. Like relax. Y'all are a little tech company. Like nobody's gonna die.
Yeah.
Um, but they don't see it that way. So it's just, yeah, I don't miss that. And I wanted this so, so badly for years. That was my goal. And it's changed. Like I've always been pretty entrepreneurial, I suppose. And it was with the online world, like anything's possible in 2025. Um, and I started with like YouTube and blogging. I thought I would be a blogger. That's where I liked writing a lot.
Mhm.
But that didn't work out. I do get money for blogging, but it was harder to grow for me. Um, so I tried so many things, just like all these different side hustles, and most of them failed, but generated a little bit of money, and it's just taught me a lot. And yeah, ultimately, YouTube and coaching is what worked out.
Mm.
And I love it. I don't think I could go back to a 9 to 5. If I absolutely had to, I would. But I probably would just do some sort of like retail or like maybe I like fitness. So I've always thought like, oh, if something were to happen, maybe I could get into personal training or work at the gym or something like that. But I just don't even think about it. Like I'm pretty sure I'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have enough like different pieces of income, like different, why can't I think of the word? Different sources.
Yeah,
Yeah.
multiple streams. Hmm.
Yeah, streams. That's the exact word I wanted. Uh,
Yeah.
that you don't have to worry about losing your job. I mean, I think this is actually one of the things we're going to talk about,
Hmm.
but that like is what's great about working for myself mainly as a teacher. Like if I lose a student, I'm like, okay, well, I still have this other 30 students, so
Hmm.
I'll replace this one and go about my business. Like,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I mean, of course, I care about, not seeing a kid I really like anymore, or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's nice
Yeah.
to not have to worry about like losing a job and suddenly like that's it. Your
Hmm.
income is gone. You got to figure this out now.
Yep. Yeah, we are going to talk like the myths of self-employment. And I think people now more so realize that a full-time job, a 9 to 5 job is not that secure. Like, yes, of course, you're going to have this stable paycheck, but a lot of industries are facing layoffs these days. And I myself I've seen so many people impacted by layoffs this year. A lot of my clients, well, in 2024, 2023, a lot of my clients, my boyfriend lost his job, his best friend lost his job, his past coworker lost his job. Like, it was just happening back to back too. And then yeah, several of my clients lost their jobs, and it's really sad to see, like, for people in situations where they have a lot of debt or they're single parents, that type of thing. It's like, I don't know how you deal with that. That's
Yeah.
if you're not prepared for something like that, then it really can affect everything. So no, self-employment isn't super secure, but at least there's always like you if you've built up your business and you've built up these skills and the mindset around like, okay, I can make my own money, then you can make anything possible. Like there's no limit, and that's pretty incredible. Like
Yeah.
even if I don't do YouTube or coaching, I could probably find something else to make money. And because it's like within me to do that, I've seen proof of it, and you're probably the same way. Like
Yeah.
if you stop teaching piano, like, okay, what's next? And this is what you're gonna do. So,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a really huge benefit of that because by running your own business, you learn all of these other skills that you have to do yourself,
mhm,
um, which then add to your like arsenal. It seems like
mhm.
a corny choice of word, but of skills that you have that are then, marketable if you need them.
Yeah, it just keeps going. Like you just have to keep learning. So
Yeah.
makes a lot of options for us. I think another thing I know that even myself I was scared of was the health insurance, which it still is a little bit like America and healthcare and health insurance will never, at least not in my lifetime, it won't be cleaned up, I don't think.
Yeah.
But it's not as bad as I expected. Like I thought I would be paying like 800 a month for health insurance, and that's not the case, especially if you're like first getting started and have a lower income. You get a tax credit, you could save money on your health insurance, and then there's pretty good plans out there. Like they're not the best, but decent options. My
Yeah.
doctors are in network. As y'all know, I have Crohn's disease, which I'm on very expensive medication. Like if without insurance, just a 1 month supply costs over $1,200, and that's the generic. So there's like more expensive ones. So my with expensive medications, sometimes the insurance does cover it, even if you're self-employed, but mine does not. However, these more expensive medications usually have like a savings card where it costs me nothing because of that. So it's not for every medication, but a lot of people I would hope are not on these expensive meds. So yeah, that's worked out really well for me. So I have the insurance, it does not cover my meds, but because of that savings card, I don't pay anything for my $1,000 plus injections. So that's been awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
a
mean,
relief.
yeah. That's another piece. Like when I was a waiter, I didn't have health insurance either. So when I started teaching, I was like, okay, well, I still don't have health insurance.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, I think things, it got easier. I'm always hesitant to bring these things up, but once like the Affordable Care Act happened, it
Yep.
became easier to get insurance. That's while I was still in Texas at the time, and my finances were too much of a mess for me to even like think about trying to get insurance.
Hmm.
I love the fact that like you've known, I guess I was already in the recovery phase when I met you with
Yeah.
finances, but even like they were even a bigger disaster before.
Hmm.
But yeah, now I have insurance through the Affordable Care Act, and I think New York State is especially good at this stuff. Well, I don't pay anything for my insurance right now, and I may have to
Hmm.
again this year, but this is one of the reasons why I'm like, okay, I feel like it's a pretty fair trade-off with the higher taxes in the state. And even if I don't qualify, knowing that other people are going to qualify for like free insurance is kind of makes me feel better about
Yeah.
paying high taxes. But
That's
yeah,
true.
yeah, and it's pretty good. Like I have pretty solid insurance. It was hard at first to figure out which doctors I could go to, but almost everyone in the Mount Sinai network in New York City takes my insurance, so I
Hmm.
can pretty easily find doctors when I need them.
Yeah. Yeah. And so did you get your plan through healthcare.gov? Like, is that where you go through to apply?
There's a New York State specific one.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
New York State of Health, it's called. And then
Hmm.
you go in and fill out your income and all that different stuff, which they
Yeah.
fact check. But then I was already working with you when I found out they reached out to me and were like, "Hey, you don't have to pay for this anymore. We're moving you to another plan that's free because of your
Awesome.
income."
Hmm.
Which I mean, I think it's because of being self-employed and all the taxes that came out and all this that put me in the space where I could get it. But I called like several times, like, "Hey, I don't think this is right. Like, how am I getting?" And they're like, "It's definitely true. We see your tax return. You
Hmm.
qualify for this." I think I called like three times. Like, no, no, I don't think so. I don't want to. I don't want to wind up owing or losing my insurance. And they're like, "No, it's definitely you're on board." Yeah. So
Awesome.
I think I lost track of what your question was in that.
No, I was just asking if you went through the marketplace,
Oh
which
yeah.
you basically did, but for New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that Georgia now has one as of this year,
Yeah.
georgiaaccess.com. So that's where it's basically the same though as healthcare.gov, which they make it a little bit confusing and ugly and but it's
Uh,
not that bad once you've done it a couple of times. And then you can always get a broker, which I think is helpful. I
oh
did
yeah.
speak with one a few years ago, when I was looking for insurance on my own, and they were super helpful. Like the different options, what would be covered, and that's for free, like from I don't know how it works, but I think they get like a commission or something if I don't know, but you don't have to pay anything for a broker, so
Yeah, it's so good.
hmm.
Yeah, before none of that existed. And
Yeah.
I remember there was a year that I was like, okay, I want to figure out how to get insurance because I was doing kidney stones, which we talked about in a different
Yep.
episode. And I needed to figure out like, how am I going to handle this? And I couldn't find a plan that I could buy as an individual that wasn't like $1,000 a month. That was a lot harder,
Yeah.
obviously. But yeah,
Yeah, hopefully it gets better, continues to get better, but
yeah, I
it's
hope,
really not that bad. Like, especially if you don't have a lot of health issues, like
yeah,
you're good. Just get an expensive or a high deductible plan and pay less money and you're still
yeah,
covered. I think it's super important to have health insurance no matter what, but I know some people just go without it. I'm like, okay.
yeah. I
But
went without it a long time.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would be very scared, but
Yeah. I think some states don't have it as easy. Like I think because some states, I think, don't really want the Affordable Care Act to exist.
mhm.
So I feel like I'm talking out of my ass a little bit here. But
Hopefully it stays around. I know that that was like potentially going to go away
yeah,
with Trump in office, but I honestly don't keep up with these things. So
yeah. I mean, lately I've been intentionally, I used to keep up with a little better, but
yeah,
I try
I
not to
have no
go into
clue.
the,
We'll see what happens. But so
yeah,
far, so good.
yeah. Well, it hasn't taken off as yet though.
Yeah,
Oh
true.
yeah.
But so far, so good with my
Yeah.
journey of getting
Yeah.
insurance.
And mine
So,
too. Yeah.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
it does feel like he's the president now, though. I have to say, like,
Yeah. I mean, I
I'm like,
haven't
oh
seen
yeah,
Biden in
yeah,
like, it feels like years. Like,
yeah.
he's
And
just
so
gone already. So,
I think at some point, if I were him, I'd be like, okay, let's just ride this out.
right.
I mean, I'm sure he's doing things 'cause I'm not paying attention, but
Yeah. There's always something. We were talking before we started recording about how you really started looking at things as a business owner, like you you're an entrepreneur, and so you started treating it that way. What
yeah.
made you realize that?
I'm trying to remember what happened first because so much like started changing fast. Um, I think part of what happened was COVID, realizing like I don't have any plan for anything. I'd always been able to like just figure things out when things went wrong. But like COVID happened and it was like, okay, so this is that thing that you're supposed to be prepared for.
Hmm.
And I had like $10. I like remember leaving my boyfriend's apartment and heading home, not knowing like, are we gonna see each other again? Like everything's locking down. Like,
Yeah.
how are we handling any of this? And he's very good at like stocking up, like even before COVID. So he had plenty of food, all this stuff. And I was like, oh, I guess I should buy some food. I had like $10. I bought like some black beans. I don't remember what I bought.
Uh-huh.
And everything worked out, obviously. But I mean, it was one of those moments is like, you can't keep doing this. Like,
Hmm.
you can't keep doing your life like this. It's not okay. Like, and it just getting older made me realize like this, you're not going to be able to always like figure it out. Like, there's going to
Hmm.
come a time where there's no figuring it out. You're too old to work. Like it really became very clear during that time. So I started you know, looking at like watching finance videos on YouTube, it's really YouTube that helped me so much of like, how
Hmm.
are people doing this? Like, I felt like I was just doing this. I don't know. My life has always been sort of just following like whatever opportunities show up, which I think is a great way to do things.
Hmm.
Um, but I didn't learn how to do it the right way when, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, so I think I started just watching YouTube videos, seeing creators how they were like running their life like a business. And then I really started structuring and having some guidelines around how I bill my clients, what I expect from them. Like, I was sort of letting everything be, I was following them instead of telling them how I wanted them to work with me.
I see.
So like people could cancel lessons. Um, and then I wouldn't charge them for those lessons. So my month to month income was just all over the place.
Hmm.
And I was already bad with managing my money. So like slowly but surely, I started adding more sort of guidelines and being really more rigid about how I work with my students and their families, which I had been scared to do for a long time. Once I put that stuff in place and started getting everyone, paying the same amount every month and all this kind of stuff, it made me like, oh, this is a business. Like I get to decide how this works. And I don't have to work with people that I don't want to work with. And if they don't like
Yes.
my rules, that's okay. Like then we're not
Hmm.
a good fit and that's perfectly fine. But I'm not working with you. Um,
Yeah,
so all
that's
of that
great.
just started making me realize that, oh, this is a business. Like a whole different process of all those different pieces. Um, it just made me realize like, oh, this isn't like a half-ass thing. Like I was actually really successful at always having students. And I never advertise, I never have to like, and it took me like getting my head around this isn't just an accident and you making do. You're good at this.
Hmm.
Make money at it too. Make this work. Um, I feel like that doesn't answer the question, but there's a lot of different changes in my mindset that made me
Yes.
able
Hmm.
to, you know, really take ownership and like pride in what I was doing.
Yeah. No, I resonate with that. Because I feel like mine was always like side hustles for so long. And yes, I called it a business, but I never felt like an entrepreneur because I think for you, you being like a service-based business, would you consider it a service-based where you're teaching
Yeah,
piano
I think
or
so.
okay. Yeah, so I did have that too, but also being a content creator, I felt like that's not entrepreneurial, but it is, because it is, you have to look at things as a business. So I feel like I didn't start feeling very entrepreneurial until I started working with the coach, my LinkedIn coach back in September. And it wasn't even about LinkedIn. It was just about how he looked at my business and how he had me like change things. And I was like, whoa, yeah, I do need to think of things for me because this is my life now. And that really it was a mindset shift. Like nothing really special happened. It was just like this is a business. I am an entrepreneur and I started treating it that way, which yeah, it's just like changing how you carry yourself, I suppose, and how you like the boundaries you put in place and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have I'm just curious because I recognize this in myself before I kind of like realized like, oh, I'm a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm all these different things. When I heard other people who were doing side hustles, what I identified as side hustles say that they were an entrepreneur, I'd always be like, oh, come on, give me a break. But they were. Like I was just having like an internal, maybe,
Yeah.
feeling insecure myself.
Yeah. I think so. I wouldn't feel that way. It was more so how I because yeah, when I was making money on the side, I didn't feel like an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
even though it was entrepreneurial things. So yeah, I would probably think that way. I don't remember specifically, but just for how I treated myself or thought of myself, it was like, oh no, you're a content creator or
Yeah.
a blogger or YouTuber. Like it was more like that instead of entrepreneur,
Yeah.
but it is entrepreneurial, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
I think it's important to, I think maybe I'd say this stuff because I still have like an inner voice that's like, nope, you're a fake. What you're doing is not a real job.
yeah.
But I think it's important to keep using that kind of language and call and like recognize that no, you're running a
Hmm.
business, treat it
Yeah.
like a business, so that I will continue to make business choices, like choices treating, my life, my personal life as a business too, like and pay attention to, making the financial part of both of those things
Hmm.
beneficial to me.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a very simple mindset shift, I suppose.
Yeah.
I guess I want to ask, what is your least favorite thing about being self-employed, if anything?
I don't know. I think I really like all of it.
That's
I
good.
mean, I think I would have benefited from having like a 9 to 5 job with benefits, with insurance and like a retirement fund and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, like having those things happen automatically, I think would have made a huge difference in my life.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my least favorite thing still, like having to figure out insurance and, making sure I'm paying my taxes, figuring out my tax mess. Um, but at this point, even where I'm at right now, I feel like because with my finances still in deep recovery phase, um, I feel like the benefits of being able to like make my own choices about my work life
Hmm.
really outweigh anything negative.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, I would say that the work, like I never feel like it's enough. It's never ending, and any job is never ending because you're always going to have like a new task type of thing, but it always feels like I could be doing more.
Hmm.
And I've tried to work on that. Like it's okay. It's 9 p.m. You don't need to keep working, but I still am in that mindset. I mean, because when you work a 9 to 5 job plus you have side hustles, like it was just constant work. Like I was always just on my laptop and doing the business stuff too, which I like that, of course. And yeah, I have tried to put boundaries in place with like when I stop working, but it doesn't always work. Like last night I was editing until 9 p.m. because I have to get a video up today for my finance channel. And then I had to get one for Sunday and it was a sponsored post. So it's like not a bad thing per se, but it's like sometimes you have to make those sacrifices and it's not going to stop. At least for me, that's how I see it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been hard to like manage my time, I suppose.
Yeah. And be able to, I wonder if it's like, because have you finished your first year of being only self-employed?
No, no. I think it is because I'm fairly new
Yeah.
that it's like that. Yeah.
I feel like, I'm just throwing this out there. I think as you do it more, there's going to come a time, and I think you're already doing it. Like I see, on your videos on your finance channel, a lot of times you're like, you know what? I'm phasing this out. Like you're
Yep.
identifying the pieces that are like, okay, this is something that can go away for now, like
Hmm.
and where your energy needs to go.
Yep.
But that's going to really like help you decrease your workload while increasing your income.
Hmm. The thing too is I put the pressure on myself. Like I post 3 videos a week plus like my lifestyle YouTube channel and then I have clients and that sort of thing. And like my clients are my top priority, but also I feel like YouTube is my top priority and I have to get those 3 videos up every week. But that's not true. Like at some point maybe I could transition to like 2 videos or 1 video. Not happening right now before anybody says anything, but Yeah, I know that with time, I think it will, because there's only so much I can talk about too. Like with fine, I mean, I guess it could keep going, but
Yeah.
at some point, I'm going to touch on all the topics, and it's like, aside from I can keep documenting my personal finances, but it can slow down, and
Yeah.
it's just pressures I'm putting on myself. So yeah, but otherwise, I love it. It's just the best. And honestly, I haven't really taken advantage of being self-employed though. Like, yes, I can, there's some days where I'm like, ah, I don't feel good. I'm just going to read or take a nap. But when I was working my 9 to 5 job, it would be like a really nice day outside. And I'm like, why am I not outside? Like I'm working this stupid job. Well, I should be outside. But I haven't, even being self-employed, I haven't really taken advantage of that. Like go on a hike or, yeah, just go do something instead of working because I can. I want to do
Yeah.
that more in 2025. Like schedule it into my weeks. Like, oh, it's a Tuesday. I'm going to go hiking, you know?
Yeah. I think that speaks to like the positive qualities about being self-employed because you're sitting in the office before working for somebody else,
Mhm.
working on them, working on somebody else's dream or someone else's vision. Um, so, but you're working on yours now. So
Mhm.
like, it's not as appealing to like, say, fuck it, I'm going to go
Yeah,
right now and I'm not doing this because
that's true.
you're passionate about what you're doing.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true too. Like I don't feel as like bad about working because it's for me and I do enjoy it. So, but I
Yeah.
want to take advantage of that. Like if it's a nice day, I still go outside like for my walks and everything, but not like, yeah, we have the option to just do whatever we want and we can cancel meetings. We can, and not that I would do that, but we have full control and that's really, really cool.
Yeah. I think there's like, that was one of the things that got me into trouble in a way. But I think it's because I wasn't taking my business as seriously, where I would cancel lessons with kids fairly, I wouldn't say regularly, but way more than I do now,
Hmm.
because I didn't really have a structure around anything, and I was just like, I just don't feel like teaching today. Um, but now, like I was, because I have expectations of their attendance, I now have expectate more higher expectations of myself.
Hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense. I guess it does.
Yeah. And I think what would you say is your like advice for somebody who wants to become self-employed?
I think it's kind of some of the stuff I talked about, like separate finances as soon as possible. Um, find people who are doing the thing that you're doing successfully, be it on YouTube or some kind of mentor or, unofficial mentor, just someone who you could watch. I don't know how many times I think about it mostly with my Patreon. When I set up my Patreon page, I was like,
Hmm.
who else is doing this kind of work? How's theirs set up? And I would look at it and say, oh, I'll just steal all their ideas. But I mean, it was their ideas around like different tiers and that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But there's just so much, there's so many um, resources available now to learn how to run your business, how to get clients, all of these different things. Find a couple people that you really like
Hmm.
and do what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then ultimately you'll figure out the parts you could leave behind and your own sort of ideas and yeah, believe in
Yeah.
yourself. However, whatever that means. That's the hardest part, right?
That is the hardest part. I would say I should have talked about that, like the self-doubt that you probably have kind of gotten over it, but for me, the self-doubt has been a big part so far in this, like just
Yeah.
ignoring that part of your brain that keeps saying like, oh, you suck at this or you can't do this or it's not going to work. Because it does affect how like your results. So it's interesting. And I was going to say today I was thinking about because you said resources, there's so many resources and I can usually tell when somebody's gonna like succeed at something, whether it be business or even like some of my clients with their like tracking their numbers. And you are very resourceful, and that's such an important thing, like being resourceful, because a lot of people just try, and it's fine to ask for help, but a lot of people just go to that immediately, like, oh, let me ask this person how they're doing this or what they're doing, and that's their first course of action. But it should really be being resourceful on your own. Like there's so many resources out there. It's 2025, like
Yeah.
anything you want to know is out there. And even people who struggle to do things on their own are like I've just noticed they have a harder time with everything. Like the thing that's coming to the top of my mind, honestly, because this comes up a lot, is people asking me to do certain things in their spreadsheets that they're no longer my clients. Like I've worked with them in the past, but they're like, "Hey, I don't know how to do this. Can you do this for me?" And it's like you can literally Google how to do it. Will tell you there's a video that will break it down. There's a if you want to read it, it will break it down. So yeah, just being resourceful, I feel like is one of the most important characteristics for being an entrepreneur because
Yeah.
it's okay to ask for help once you've exhausted all your options, at least in my opinion. So it's just interesting to see that because it yeah, that's all I'll say.
Yeah. I think from like I'm like that in a way because two reasons. I hate feeling helpless about things,
Hmm.
and getting help with that kind of stuff just kind of pushes you down a rabbit hole where you have this sort of entity in your life. Think about when I was doing more with my websites and I had someone helping me.
Hmm.
If I wanted to fix something, I didn't know how any of it worked because someone else had set the whole thing up. So I
Yeah.
couldn't just do a small thing. I always had to go get this person, potentially pay them. And it was like, oh, this is just an easy thing. And it would make me so mad that I couldn't just change like a font or something.
Hmm.
It's so much easier just to get on YouTube and set things up yourself.
Yeah. It's different if you have like a ton of money and you can just delegate things, of course, but
Yeah.
that's not the situation for most people. So, yeah, you have to just it makes you a better person if you do things on your own. So it pays off. I think for my tips that I would give, done is better than perfect. So many people get hung up on the bullshit and you don't need your logo, you don't need your whatever, you don't need everything to be lined up. Like get your first client, get your first blog up, get your first video up. And these days, starting like becoming self-employed is even easier, I would say. Like it doesn't need to be, you don't need to be some big business owner. You don't have to have a startup. It shouldn't take a lot to get started. So done is better than perfect. And I would say going along with that, you don't need to invest too much money up front. I think a lot of people get hung up on that too. Like, oh, I'm going to buy this and try this and do this. And it can be free these days. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to pay for, you can use your phone, you can use your whatever you already have. It depends on what you're going into, of course, but for the most part, becoming self-employed can be pretty affordable to start. And I would say don't invest too much money because it may not work out and you could lose it all.
Yeah.
So,
I think that just to tag on to what you're saying about, just start, and I'm thinking about this more in terms of like content creation.
mhm,
And maybe you could correct me if this isn't true, but it seems like we're in a place now where people are more interested in basic, not highly produced YouTube videos. I know I am. Like,
same.
I mean, I don't want a total hot mess video, but I really prefer to watch people who I could tell are like sitting in their apartment. They set up their iPhone to film,
Hmm.
and they're just, doing a video and being very sincere and genuine about what they're talking about.
Hmm.
Just to sort of like emphasize that idea of like just start
Yeah.
doing your business, and you'll
Yeah.
be able to improve as you go.
Yeah. And like you were saying, believe in yourself, but also be yourself too, because I think people get really, they try to be like other people. Um, and it will take, if you truly are yourself, it's probably going to take a longer time to grow because, you could be like, this is me thinking specifically of content creation, but there's, like Mr. Beast and Logan Paul, like these people who are characters. They're screaming in their videos. They're not being themselves. Like they're not like that 24/7. Um, but I really like to always be my who I am because I don't want to have to pretend in front of anybody. And obviously it's taken me more time to grow. It's been very slow, but I like that people are here for me. This is who I am as a person. And yeah, I guess what you were saying, like you like it how people don't make things like aesthetically pleasing and all of that. I always liked that too. Like on Instagram, back when I was on, I liked the people who just like posted, like they took a picture of their coffee cup in the morning or something, or like their messy desk. I really liked that. Those people don't do well, like do well in the grand scheme of things compared to other people. But there is an audience out there for you as a person, just
Yeah.
depending on, yeah, that's, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I feel anyway. Just be
Yeah.
authentic.
Yeah. There's a piece of that, and I like that kind of thing too. There was someone I used to watch, I don't know why I'm not seeing them anymore, who did just I forgot what they said. They're called their unaesthetic life. And they
Hmm.
lived in like kind of a rental house,
Love it.
looked kind of
Hmm.
like a sort of old. And
Hmm.
they're like, yep, this is my house here. I'm making my breakfast for my kids. It's a lot of frozen food. It's a lot of just, whatever. And I was like, this is amazing because this
Love
is
it.
how
Yeah.
a lot of people just have their life. I mean, I don't live in like a very swanky place at all.
Hmm.
And now I can watch this and sort of imagine like, oh, I could make a video like this. I have the perfect
Hmm.
house, perfect apartment for that.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's
exactly.
one little thing, just what you were saying, I feel with my teaching too. And I think about a lot of times like that imposter syndrome that comes up when like I have students who, I think other piano teachers who were very like rigid and about practicing and all this stuff would be like, this kid has been taking lessons from you for like 5 years and this is all they can do.
Hmm.
And I think I get really insecure about that stuff until I remember, like, well, this kid probably would have quit lessons with another teacher who wanted them to, all of our individual styles are valid for who they're valid for. Like, so I may not be like hardcore, like taskmaster, piano student, or teacher, but there are a lot of kids that I teach who I think really enjoy their lessons and they enjoy doing music, and
Hmm.
that's all that their goal is. And
Yeah.
and then I have other students who really do work hard, and not that these other kids don't work hard, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it would be easy to kind of like get down on myself about how much progress this kid has made, or I can look at like, oh, look, this kid is still taking piano. They're moderately interested in playing the piano, but they're still learning new stuff, and they are having this skill for the rest of their life.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm getting to contribute to that.
Yeah. It's just like also a form of expression, I would say. Like you don't have to be perfect at it, just a way to enjoy something in life, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I feel like we could talk about, I didn't realize how like passionate I am, I guess, like about self-employment. Like I thought this episode would be kind of hard to talk through, but I feel like we could make another one or like keep talking about this. So let
Yeah.
us know if y'all would want that because I could keep talking and we have more ideas that we didn't even get to. So
Yeah.
um
I
yeah,
feel like we're talking
self-employment.
about more than just self-employment right now.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like I think maybe we should look into like what these other top like because there's so much about just like having a effective life and having like learning how to so what's it called when you self-actualize and really like
Hmm.
find out what our meaning or purpose is, what brings us joy,
Yeah.
way to follow that.
Hmm. It is so cool. Self-employment is, I love it so, so much. And yeah, it's just doing things for you,
I'm
things
not,
that you actually enjoy. So I guess that's it. But let us know if you want us to talk more on this. I would be happy to for sure.
yeah, I was looking forward to this episode, but it's actually even better than I anticipated. I really like this conversation.
Yeah. Anything else
I
to
think,
wrap it up?
yeah, that's it.
Okay.
You should end these just like, okay, bye. We're
Bye.
done.
Well, thank y'all for listening. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe. We're also on Spotify. If you enjoy these, let us know. And if you
Yeah,
don't, just don't listen.
yeah. You don't keep it to yourself.
Yes, we don't care.
I love it. Cool. Another great episode.
All right. Thanks, y'all. See you next time.